All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to talk to you today. And I hope you're enjoying the live streams, the videos. Got a lot of hits for my program Tuesday. And of course, I can't remember it was something about Cenk, right? It was about the Young Turks and specifically Uyghur and how he went on rising the hill with Robbie and Brianna Joy, and they had quite a go at it, quite a to do there. Brianna Joy Gray and Cenk, a lot of TYT detractors, dislikers. I don't want to use the word haters. Were definitely checking out that live stream. Keep coming back to Halitics. And the best way you can help me, just click that like and click bottom right subscribe. Let's keep the momentum going. I wasn't originally planning to discuss this story, but I saw that a lot of people, a lot of the live streamers that I follow, I think Jimmy Dore and also again The Hill Rising platformed this particular story, and that is not the deplatforming. Let's be real clear. Brand was not deplatformed. You can still find his YouTube channel. Just click Russell, just type Russell Brown in that brand, not Brown, brand, like the brand Halitics that I hope you're watching right now. Of course, if you aren't, you won't hear me say that. Call, by the way, 240-363-7190. Talk to me anytime. That's what we do here. That's kind of unique. Other live streamers, especially in any sphere, but in the political sphere where I am, I don't see a lot of them taking calls. Every now and then you'll see maybe a Sam Cedar take a call. I think usually they're they're curated very closely. He's not going to just take any rando off the street. You have to fit within a particular profile if Cedar's going to talk to you, basically to promote him, to make him look better, at least as he sees it, either to mock you, make fun of you, or if you're going to give a big attaboy, he'll platform you. But I'll take anybody who calls. So that's what makes me a little different. You don't ever see Jimmy Dore take calls. You never see Brianna Joy Gray take calls. I don't know a lot of other hosts who take them. So you get a special opportunity with me to share your views, and I guarantee you I will listen. I'm not going to read Shade's comment from yesterday's program, which was about Peter Dow and why I believe he is a perfectly appropriate choice to head up Dr. Cornel West's campaign for president, despite his record, his history of being a Hill shill, Hillary Clinton shill, and a DNC pit bull. I still think, and maybe partly for those reasons, I think he was a wise choice, a good choice, apparently by Jill Stein on behalf of for the West campaign. Shade gives you the pros and cons. I think he lays them out beautifully in the comments to yesterday's program. And ultimately, of course, I come down on the pro side, pro Dow for that job. So if you want to check that out, I suggest you do it. It's worth a read for sure. I'm not going to go into it right now. Russell Brand barred from making money, not deplatformed, demonetized, and that's how I promoted today's program. This is, at least according to Max Blumenthal, who I generally respect from the gray zone, generally agree with, and certainly he provides a very, very important, very much needed facts and data about our foreign policy, our imperialism, Israel's oppression and persecution of the Palestinians. He's about as good as anybody and better than just about everybody. That would be Max Blumenthal. He has a real problem with what YouTube did here. So I thought I'd get into it because as I read the story and as I listened to Max and as I did a little more research, I'm less confident. Or let me say it a little differently. I don't agree with Blumenthal. Maybe it's wrong what Google's doing, but it's not the end of Western civilization as we know it. And that seems to be where Blumenthal comes down. I didn't kind of love the way he responded to, I thought were some reasonable questions by Brianna Joy Gray. So I wanted to get into that. Brand has been accused by 4 women, apparently. They are unidentified. I assume the Times of London knows who they are. Apparently, the police in London, I believe, received a report, even though one of the, and you can see it right there, the rape allegation. So not just a sexual assault, which can run the gamut. We don't know, an unwanted kiss, which I'm not saying that's not serious. Obviously, we know in Spain, one of the coaches of the Spanish Women's World Cup team, which won the championship, was actually discharged from his position because he planted an unwanted kiss on one of the victorious players. So I'm not dismissing that as serious, but it's not, in my view, certainly, and if you disagree, please chime in. I just cannot see that in the same level as a rape. So Brand has been charged or alleged to have committed rape and sexual assault. These are very serious and very wrong-headed, obviously criminal behavior, immoral. There's no possible way to sugarcoat it, including rape in L.A. a little over 10 years ago. I think that's outside the statute of limitations. They may have lengthened it to 20. I know it used to be 10, I believe, in L.A. In California when I was doing research on another case. I think it was the Trump case, right? Because he was charged with a civil suit in New York, not criminally. So I don't know whether that was over 20 years, maybe close to 30 years. I'm not sure what the statute is in California for the crime of rape. Also, a girl of 16, or at least she was 16 at the time, she claims he sexually assaulted her. And the rape, the alleger of rape has bolstering her account a report, according to the Times of London, of a report that they went to the Rape Crisis Center in Los Angeles. So there is some corroborating evidence, clearly, and this is not something, I think, to be just lightly dismissed or to pretend it never happened. Obviously, now we do have a presumption of innocence, and I certainly am willing to extend that, of course, to Brand. And if no charges are brought, no charges are brought. And at some point, you have to say, well, if no charges are brought, there's no civil suit brought, the identity of the accusers is not made public, then I think we owe it to Brand, a public figure, to discredit, to just simply disregard them. But I think we're still in early days to go that far. Do I think YouTube should have demonetized him? Probably not. I don't think that this is sufficient. We don't have the identities of the people who are saying Brand assaulted and in one case raped them. We don't have those names. But again, these are crimes, not something to disregard. They own the platform. Google owns YouTube. If they decide that they don't want him on their platform, I get that. Or at least they don't want, and it's not even a question, and we'll play the clip, of not wanting him. It's that they're saying, we're not going to monetize you. So this move by YouTube 2 days ago comes on the heels of a joint investigation of Brand by UK news outlets, the Sunday Times, the Times of London, and Channel 4. I'm not sure if Channel 4 is a more conservative, right-leaning, neo-lib, neo-con type media outlet, which the Times is. I believe it's owned by Rupert Murdoch, right? And so that will become relevant when we hear from Max Blumenthal in a moment. And I think what Blumenthal has to say is relevant and important. But again, I'm not so far that completely blown. This doesn't completely blow me up as, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened. It's not the same as the Julian Assange allegations when he was charged in Sweden, and it seemed clear even at the time that it was retaliation for Assange reporting facts about the American empire and the crimes of the West in Iraq, including torture and other, just war crimes. So there's Brand. He's transformed himself into a political commentator and influencer. He posts YouTube videos, and he does focus quite a bit on his view, which is that the lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns, were totally wrong, that this was the big state, this was Big Brother. And, I'm not as far down that road, that Jimmy Dore road, as Russell Brand is. Russell Brand has also been critical of American empire, and I'm 100% with him on that. One thing to keep in mind is that this is not the, before we play Blumenthal, I just want to say, well, let's play Blumenthal first, then we'll get, because the question arises in his conversation with Brianna Joy Gray, how unprecedented has this been done before? Have social media platforms demonetized others who are similarly situated to Brand? That is, there's allegations, but we don't know how serious they are, and we don't know how. We know how serious the allegations are, but we don't know whether the evidence, facts support those, and to what degree. So here is the argument, the debate, if you will, between Blumenthal and Brianna Joy Gray.
Let's be specific here. Russell Brand hasn't been removed. The issue is that he's been demonetized, right?
One of the major dividing lines in our...
Let me just stop it right there real quick. They talk so quickly, it's hard to sometimes get it all in. Yeah, what Brianna Joy Gray is responding to Max Blumenthal talking about how basically Brand's right to speak out has been taken away from him. And she is saying, well, no, you can still find his videos. You can still see everything that he's posted. You can hear his opinions. And again, it's not the same as Assange. Assange was reporting facts, data. He presented all sorts of information, including debunking Russiagate. And those were facts that anyone could read, anyone could review, anyone could determine if they, believed the witness statements. Let's say facts, witness statements, documentary evidence, and the like. That's what Assange did. Russell Brand basically gives his opinion. He gives an opinion I share in many ways, but he's not the source of the actual reportage that underlines his opinion. People like Max Blumenthal are the ones who are providing the actual source, the information, which is still readily available. It's not the same as when the U.S. government, the UK, try to crush Assange so he can no longer expose their wrongdoing, their misdeeds. It's not the same.
Our political culture right now is whether you think Donald Trump is being targeted with a quasi-weekly indictment because he threatened the quote-unquote deep state, or because he actually committed heinous crimes that no other president has ever been committed, and that this is worse than Watergate.
All right, so let me stop it there again. Now, I mean, he didn't answer the question. He didn't flat out say, yeah, he's being demonetized. He is not being deplatformed. His statements, his arguments, his opinions are still available for all who want them. That's a really important distinction. I think his failure, Max's failure to acknowledge that and to discuss it and to explain why it really, in his view, doesn't matter, is a pretty serious failing on his part. It kind of weakens, in my view, his position about how awful what YouTube and Google are doing here. But let's hear some more from Blumenthal, who, again, I take his opinion very seriously. I am not saying because of this I just count him or disregard him. I just think he's going too far. He's protesting a little too far.
And I would say that's what the election is going to be decided on. And so the Russell Brand case really...
All right, so he's saying, yeah, he's analogizing this to Trump and how there's this witch hunt against Trump, or many people believe that, and media is no longer credible. And I don't know how they're directly analogous, Blumenthal. I don't think they're exactly the same thing. I mean, Trump is being prosecuted by credible DAs. And what Trump did, I think in Georgia, does clearly arise to a crime, right? I mean, he tried to reverse the legitimate results of an election without any evidence to support it. And the one person he's quoted wrote this book called Rigged, and she's a conservative, I forget her name right now, wrote it for the Wall Street Journal. She's a reporter there, but she didn't say that voting machines reverse votes. She didn't say that lots of legitimate voters were denied access to the voting machines, which is Trump's argument, his so-called Trump card. She doesn't say any of that. She just says, yeah, the media had it in for Trump and they reported things inaccurately. And there's truth to that, but there's also truth that the media does that in every election. I think Trump got it worse. I think he got a raw deal, probably he did, because people like Rachel Maddow for years and the New York Times and the Washington Post refuse to, they reported that Russiagate was a real thing, and they never came out and said it was a hoax. So yeah, but that's not the same as claiming that trying to reverse the actual results of the election as Trump did. So it's not the same, Max. Trump is very I think he's guilty of election defraudation. That's a word. And it's not the end of the world if YouTube says to Brand, we're going to demonetize you right now until we get some clarification on these assault charges.
Fits into that dividing line in our political culture. Do you trust the system or not?
Also, we cannot trust the system in many, many ways, but still have some faith that they're going to maybe get things right, as they did with the Russiagate hoax, right? In the end, Trump was not charged with any crimes that involved bogus allegations that he conspired with the Russians to defeat Hillary Clinton. That didn't happen. He wasn't charged. He did, it seems very, very clear to me, try to reverse a pretty democratically run election that wasn't rigged in his favor, or that wasn't rigged against him, and now he could go to jail for that. I just can't get all upset. There are things I can get upset about. This one isn't going to drive me up the wall there, Max.
I would argue that most people do not trust the system, but the problem is in the U.S., they vote with their feet, which means they do not vote at all because they're so checked out of the system. So here's a case where powerful interests are obviously coming to YouTube to shut down someone who may have actually done horrible things, but they're doing it not because he did those horrible things. This is well known in Hollywood. He's written about it. Everyone knew about his antics. Russell Brand was never shy about it when he attempted to rehabilitate himself.
All right, so now I'm going to stop it there and we'll move on but let me just final comment. So Blumenthal's argument here is the old, which I hate this argument. It's okay to be an asshole if everyone knows you're an asshole. Well, it isn't okay. I mean, and the fact that Brand was, whatever you want to call it, wild child, or you want to kind of like sort of a rascal or a scoundrel. Okay, that doesn't mean that we give him a pass when people come forward and say, oh, wait a second. It wasn't just, he got a little handsy at one party. He actually raped me. It's not just, I was drunk and I was out with the girls and, I was 18 and I saw this movie star and, we went farther than I wanted and I said no and he didn't listen and then he did. It's a 16-year-old or a woman who says when she was 16. So it's not the same. It's not quite the de minimis allegations that Blumenthal implies. Now, all that said, I don't like depriving people of livelihoods. I don't like taking away jobs without something more than unnamed accusers, even if they're alleging serious offenses. And I probably come down against what YouTube did, but it's their platform in the end. It's Google's platform. Now, should there be many more platforms? There should be. Should YouTube have a monopoly, a virtual monopoly on this? They shouldn't. And am I worried that they could at some point come after me? Well, not right now. I hope I'm in a position where I'm big enough, where I'm influential enough, where I'm important enough that that could happen to me. But even if it did, there are alternatives. And this is something also to keep in mind. Russell Brand isn't completely captive or captivated by or completely dependent on YouTube to make money on his live streams and his podcasts. He's a movie star, or he was, and he's a comic, so he can certainly ply his trade in those areas. But look, he doesn't have to use YouTube. He's got Uscreen, he's got Uscreen, he's got Vimeo, he's got Movie, he's got the Cast, Patreon, Twitch, TikTok. Those are all alternative places where Brand can put his live stream and monetize it. Doesn't mention X/Twitter here, but if Brand puts a few, some product placements in his videos, or just simply, thanks whoever, and he puts that video on X, he's going to get millions of views. I guarantee it. And he can use those, I'm sure, to monetize from whoever is paying him per view to promote their service or their product. So I just, this guy has a gazillion alternatives to make money. And some of you may feel like I'm minimizing it, or you love Russell Brand and you want to watch him on YouTube, and I get all that. But I think we need to have, we need lots of options. We need lots of alternatives, and we do have them, but nobody goes to any of them. I still keep my halginsberg.com website because I'm always thinking, I don't post there. Everything now I do is on Facebook, and it's on, to a lesser degree, Twitter, or it's right here. I know that. I do that. But there's always a chance. I'm like, well, I may want to go back. At some point, I may want to go back to my own website where I have complete control. I don't have to depend on anybody for anything. I don't do that because this is so convenient. It's such a great platform. It's awesome, right? That I can do this on YouTube. And if they decide to promote one of my videos, like they did my Tuesday video, I get well over 1,000 views, which I'm super psyched about. So like, subscribe. Bottom right, Hal Ginsberg, Halitics. All right, let's, just want to see, there was one other point here. Yeah, so So there was another question that they got to. So is this somehow unprecedented? Are social media companies like YouTube and the others, Twitter, whatever, who I don't believe banned. I don't think any of them banned for, someone says my video is too low and my clips are too loud. Or that's interesting. I wonder about that because I don't, usually that's not an issue, but all right. Sorry about that, flying robot. Thanks for clarifying. The audio should be good though right now. But yeah, I'll turn down the YouTube in a little bit. If I play another video, I'll turn that down. So Andrew Tate, this guy's a real scuzzball. He's a lot worse than, in my opinion, than anything that, than Russell Brand, although I don't know that he's been, and I think there are allegations of rape. He was banned, not just demonetized. He was banned a year ago from Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And that's because he just is a real nasty guy. He just says really obnoxious, misogynist things. That's what he was doing. And he was incredibly popular. One of the things that Blumenthal claims is that the reason for demonetizing but not deplatforming brand is that YouTube wants to still make money off of his video. So if they keep him up there, then people go there, they still make money. Okay, that seems fair. But look, Tate was more popular. He was a bigger phenomenon on social media than Brand, and yet he was just completely taken off. So if the sole criteria or criterion, the sole criterion for whether they deplatform or demonetize you, or the criterion is how popular you are, and you're really popular, we're going to take your money away, but we're still going to make money off you. That's not what happened with Tate. And one other point, the argument that Blumenthal makes about Brand, which I think has some power, I'm not saying there's nothing to it, is that Brand was demonetized because he takes on the establishment. He's anti-corporate. He's anti-empire. He's anti-war. And there's truth to that. I believe he's anti-vax. And that's a big problem for big pharma because of the profits they make from vaccines. So I get it. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's why they didn't want to deplatform. That's why they wanted to demonetize him and punish him, but not exactly deplatform to make the money. But Tate is a right winger. Tate is a extremist on the right, and I've never heard him ever say any one word boo about empire. He's not taking on entrenched corporate power in any way, and yet he was banned. He was really banned. And he was banned before he was charged. Yes, he has been charged, and he should, for sex trafficking earlier this summer. But that wasn't the impetus for banning him, for actually deplatforming. That wasn't the impetus. It was long before. It was last summer that Tate was banned from social media platforms. He was charged with rape and human trafficking June 21 of this year. So the media platforms weren't waiting in his case, just as they didn't wait so far. They haven't waited for Brand to be charged. Seems like a pretty good comp. So I'm not going to, I think one thing I try to do on this program, and it probably hurts me a lot in terms of getting bigger audience share, is see both sides, not be just, a total anti-establishment person, not just always rail, which I think, does bring you hits. It brings you eyeballs. I thought Cenk, as much as I dislike the guy, as much as I have problems with him, I thought he made a fair point. I didn't play this yesterday. He made a fair point or 2 days ago, he made a fair point about Jimmy. That Jimmy became super anti-vax in part because he was getting more and more views, that his anti-vax diatribes were very popular. And he got lots of likes and loves, and you tell him, Jimmy. And so he went where the audience took him. And I don't think that's wrong. I mean, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good thing to do, but I don't think Cenk's analysis there is incorrect. I think he's wrong on a lot of other things. I mean, he said that Trump wasn't going to make it through his first term without leaving office. Well, that was clearly false. He said that Trump was in the pocket of Putin. I don't think there's any evidence. He said that without any proof, without any evidence even. So, and remember, Trump was a big supporter of Ukraine for a while. He was putting weapons, WMDs there before, he got pissed off because they apparently, and I think it's fair to speculate, it's not without foundation that he tried to pull back support for Ukraine in part because they wouldn't prosecute Biden for the corruption that clearly brought about Hunter Biden being put in charge, or one of the trustees or board of trustees or whatever they call it, directors, right? The board of Burisma. So Trump was doing the right thing, although I think for the wrong reason. I don't think that foreign policy should be, you should use aid, military assistance as a cudgel for your own political considerations based on, what. But that said, yeah, I wish we weren't giving aid to Ukraine. As by the way, Barack Obama hadn't been giving it. All right, so as best I can tell right now, and we'll revisit this if more evidence comes up, it wasn't some horrible plot. There isn't this conspiracy to silence anti-war voices that we're seeing writ large. That's my view in the case of Russell Brand. And to the extent there is that fear, which I think is the real fear, the real legitimate fear is a handful of big, powerful corporations like Google, Disney, MSNBC, or whoever owns them, MS, and that these corporations control what we see, what we read, what we hear, and they therefore promote their own interests. We need alternatives. There are alternatives out there. You got to look for them. I consider myself to be one of those alternatives, although I am on the Google platform here. But there are ways around that. So this is on us. This is also on us to vote for people who are going to take on entrenched power. And neither of them are running in either the Democratic or Republican primaries or for president in either party. So that's why we really need someone who's going to aggressively take on big tech and break them up. Okay, so in terms of breaking up big companies or fighting big companies, we do have an example of that right now. That is the UAW strike. And I haven't really done a lot of coverage of it, but it continues. And I don't think all the companies are quite similarly situated. There's, I was thinking until yesterday that it's GM, Ford, and Chrysler, but there's no more Chrysler. It's now called Stellantis, and I guess that's because Fiat is part of it. It was Fiat Chrysler, and I'm not sure if there's some other smaller automakers that are also part of what used to be the company formerly known as Chrysler, but now known as Stellantis. Negotiations continue on day 7 of the UAW strike against the Detroit Big Three. And one thing that I find troubling about all this is that this really helps Tesla. Now, I have Teslas. I actually have 2 Teslas. I love my Teslas. They're great cars. I think they're the best cars I've ever driven. They're amazing. They're not perfect by any means. They could be better. But I don't want one company that doesn't treat it, that is not unionized. I know they all say, well, they all have stock options, our stock has skyrocketed, blah, blah, blah. You're an employee. Stock options are great. But what matters when you compare is your salary, your benefits, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So I don't want to see a company that is run by a sleazy guy like Elon Musk that's owned by him, benefiting from a strike at the Big Three. I think that, it'd be great if Tesla was also unionized. And I note that they've fought every attempt to unionize. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem. All right. So in any event, negotiations are continuing. And it looks like they're not anywhere near settling. They're nowhere near settling. More plans will likely on the strike list. So I found this interview here with Mary Barra. I mentioned her. She's the highest paid executive in the Big Three. That's GM, Ford, and Stellantis. She's number 1. She's the CEO of the most profitable and the largest of those 3. That would be, of course, General Motors. And she was interviewed on CNN. I thought the CNN interviewer did a real nice job. So let's play some of this here. And there's one drop the mic moment, which I'll stop playing her when we get to it.
You've seen a 34% pay increase in your salary. You make almost $30 million. Why should your workers not get the same type of pay increases that you're getting leading the company? Well,
all right, so let me just say, that's a pretty ballsy question, right? I mean, she's coming right out. She's saying, hey, you're the CEO. You're getting these huge, massive millions of dollars in terms of pay increases. So why should yours be higher? I don't understand that. And, to me, the CEOs, I mean, she shouldn't be getting any raises at all. I understand you want to incentivize, you want Bera to feel like she's, got a stake in the performance of the company. But you're making many millions of dollars. That said, the better solution isn't for the GM board to say, no, we're not going to give you any more money. The real solution, the best solution, the ideal solution is for the government to start taxing her marginal income at, 90, 95%. Then if the board of GM wants to pay her $30 million and every dollar that she makes, say, over the first million is taxed at 85 or 90%, and every dollar she makes over the first 10 million is charged at 95%, she has to pay back, fine. The people benefit. We all benefit. That money all goes into our pockets, right? Because it's tax money that the government can use for essential services. The real question is, why are we allowing a tiny handful of people like Mary Barra, and she's, by the way, compared to like Musk or Bezos, she's a piker. She's making nothing. They count their compensation in the billions. She's still in the tens of millions.
You look at compensation, my compensation, 92% of it is based on performance of the company. I think one of the strong aspects of the way our compensation for our represented employees is designed is not only are we putting a 20% increase on the table, we have profit sharing. So when the company does well, everyone does well. And for the last several years, that's resulted in record profit sharing for our represented employees. And I think you have to look at the whole compensation package, not only 20% increase.
I want to just stop that for a second. It's a bit of a disingenuous answer. Yes, they do allow stock options for the employees, and there is some profit sharing and there are bonuses. So yes. But what GM, one of the biggest sticking points between the two sides, management and workers, is this issue of two-tiered labor. So what GM is desperate to do is create a tier of new employees who aren't on the union scale, who aren't entitled to the same bennies, who don't get the same pension, and won't get the same profit sharing. So she's saying, yeah, look how much we're giving these people, which still isn't, close to what I'm getting. What she's not telling you is we're trying to stop that. We don't want them to get be treated almost or, sort of about as well as I am. She's not telling you that. So it's a pretty, it's dishonest is what it is, because she's claiming the workers are getting a better deal than GM than GM wants them to get, and is fighting hard to prevent future employees from getting. All right, more from Mary Barra.
But also the profit sharing aspect of it, world-class healthcare.
All right, so that's huge. The world-class healthcare feature. Now that to me is the big kahuna here. That's really, for me, the drop the mic moment. She's saying, CEO Barra is saying, you're not including, when you talk about compensation, all the, billions, maybe tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that we spend in employee compensation just on their health care alone. And you know what? It's true. I don't deny it. You're right. She does do that. And they're trying, again, this two-tiered system where the benefits will be reduced for the new employees. And of course, the union is desperate to stop that, because they know when that happens, there'll be no more people who are in the top tier in the union, on the union's pay scale, and they'll all be on the lower scale. And the union employees will be ushered out, pushed out of the company as quickly as possible. And that will greatly weaken the union long term. So of course they're against that. But it is a cost. It's a major, significant cost of them doing business, is that, quote, world-class, unquote, healthcare. this is why the whole argument you hear, this is why I support Dr. West for president. This is why the whole argument where, oh, I'm Joe from Scranton, I support workers, is a complete load of crap. This is why that and the tax issue too, by the way. Because the workers would be much better off if Barra was taxed at a much higher rate. If she were taxed at a higher rate, she'd get a lower salary from the company. She just would. She'd make less money because why would they pay her money if almost all of it was going to the government in terms of taxes? So that would mean there'd be more money available to invest in capital improvements and in salary for rank and file workers. The distance, the distance between the two, the inequality in the pay would be greatly reduced, which would benefit the workers, no question about it. If her income was taxed at a higher level, you never hear the Democrats talk about that. In fact, they're fighting hard against higher taxes on the elites, the top earners like Mary Barra, frankly. But the healthcare is even the bigger issue. GM really, really does have to pay a ton of money to the health insurance companies that insure its employees. That it's a huge drag on their profits. There's no question. It reduces the amount of money available to them for everything, including worker salaries. It also incentivizes them to set up shop anywhere but the United States, because everywhere else, the workers would be covered by some kind of government-provided health care, which saves GM a ton of money. So if Joe from Scranton if the Democrats really cared about workers, if they were really on the side of the unions, then they would be demanding, insisting, we have Medicare for all right now, across the board, period. They don't. This puts in tremendous pressure on the bottom line, reduces the bottom line for these companies. For manufacturing here, it incentivizes them to move operations overseas. It provides them with a great negotiating tactic to the employees. Hey, you want to keep your health care, you better agree to a 5% raise, not a 25% raise, even though our profits are up 30%. That's all available to the company in large part, to the corporation in large part because those arguments, those negotiating ploys are all available to them because we don't have universal single-payer health coverage. And neither party is championing that. All right, 240-363-7190. 240-363-7190. I want to get to one other aspect of this. Let's see. In terms of where the Dems are letting you down, where the Dems are not fighting for working people, and why, again, you can point, like, I guess, Crystal and Ball on with Sagar, and Kyle Kalinske from Breaking, they're on, she's on Breaking Points with Sagar, and then I guess they do Crystal and Kyle, and they're married and all that, and they're all in for Marianne Williamson, where they, they'll talk about NLRB appointments. And I heard this being discussed on Revolutionary Black Network as well. And the CJ was just saying this is a load of crap. I mean, it's like a nothing. It's like, this is a Zippo, what they're doing, what Biden's doing. So he put a few pro-labor people in NLRB. I don't dismiss that completely. I'm not like CJ. I don't say it's nothing. But it's not nearly enough. It's just on the edges. And it can so easily be undone by the next president where, you got some anti-labor people in the NLRB. It's not nothing, but it's not all that. What you see the Democrats publicly doing as much as they possibly can, and CJ made the point too, which I thought was kind of a good one, is you're hearing these arguments, about the NLRB. You're hearing it's almost like it's coordinated. So Crystal and Kyle are talking about this, and Sam Cedar is talking. All the usual sort of liberal, suspects on corporate media. The young Turks, not so young, the not so young sweaty Turk are talking about this. I don't think, is Anna sweaty? Sometimes she looks a little shiny. I don't know if I'd say Anna Kasparov. Should I say she's sweaty? It's like it's coordinated, like they're all getting their cues from the DNC, and maybe they are. Hey, talk about, NLRB, NLRB, NLRB. So again, I don't dismiss it altogether. But to me, this story reflects why we shouldn't have, give our confidence, have confidence in the Democratic Party being on our side. Because whenever they're not looking, whenever we're turned the other way, they pull crap like this. So top Dems press Supreme Court to block billionaire tax. There isn't even a billionaire tax on the that was passed. Nobody's talking about. I guess a few of the progressives, so-called progressives, I guess some of the squad have said we need a billionaire tax. Bernie talked about the billionaire tax. No one's going there. So this is from the lever. I got a nice little email from David Sirota when I signed up for it. I'm not a big fan of Sirota's, to be perfectly honest. I think he kind of takes half steps too. But I'm glad they reported this. So what you see is Obama's former acting Solicitor General and a Democratic senator turned lobbyist are helping a dark money group pressure the high court. And this is just absolutely disgusting. This is why working people don't trust the Democrats as far as they can spit. The former Solicitor General, or acting Solicitor General, I should say, his name is Catal. I never heard of him. I don't know who he is. I mean, if you're a former Solicitor General, I'll just say this: you're a big shot. You're moment. You're important. You have a lot of cred. And if you are arguing against the position that most people would kind of associate with your party, then you are going to be a rock star among the other side, right? So how much do mega corporations love the fact that they can say, hey, this wealth tax is such a bad idea that even a former Obama administration Solicitor General, right? It's like the most, I know it's not the Attorney General, but the Solicitor General is the one who argues the cases in the Supreme Court. It's like the top litigator in the whole friggin' country. That's an incredibly prestigious position. You're considered the best courtroom advocate in the country if you're the Solicitor General. What did I say? Catal? It's Katyal. Katyal, I guess. Neil Katyal. So what a plum this is for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, for, the Federalist Society, the Heritage Foundation, all these really bad actors. The worst of the worst, ghouls stealing from the poor, giving to the rich. They've got Neil Katyal on their side saying, no, you can't, to the Supreme Court, even though it's not even before you, even though there's no wealth tax even before you. You can't ever allow this to happen. It's unconstitutional. Wow. I've read the Constitution, not maybe front to back, but that's quite a stretch, but with to say the least. But it wouldn't shock me if this court, oh yeah, you can't, Clarence Thomas talks to his friend Crow, and they, Clarence, no, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional. You can't raise my tax. You can't tax my wealth. You can't. Next thing, you can't tax my estate. I'm not the biggest believer, by the way. I don't have a problem with a wealth tax for people like who have over $10 million. I'm not the biggest believer in a wealth tax. I don't think that's the greatest solution. I think the estate tax is incredibly important. It needs to be far more progressive. And the estate tax is, in fact, a wealth tax. When you die, the money is taxed, your estate. And when you earn money or you have an income, even if you don't, or if it's unearned, if it's some kind of capital gain or something like that, or dividend, it's still taxed. The problem is those taxes are way too low on the margin. We need much higher marginal top to reduce wealth and income inequality. These wealth taxes would generate some money. I'm good with them, but they really don't do much to reduce wealth and income inequality. A estate tax that goes up to 95% on estates over $1 billion on the margin, that would reduce wealth and income inequality. An income tax that goes up to 95% on income over $10 million, and you have to have a few, allow people to spread that income out over 10 years because they might be like a baseball player, a movie star, someone who's got a very short earning window. Fine. I mean, that's fine. But you start taxing top earners at very high levels, you'll quickly reduce that disparity and also end multi-generational wealth. So who else besides Katyal is on the board of this, or is arguing or whatever, send some kind of amicus brief, friend of the court brief, arguing against any kind of wealth tax? So former Louisiana Senator John Breaux, remember him? He was always kind of like the Henry Cuellar of the Senate. He might as well have been a Republican, kind of the Joe Manchin before Manchin, or the Kristen Sinema. He's a lobbyist for ExxonMobil, Norfolk Southern. Of course, they had the East Palestine crash, Boeing, and they all have, those companies have CEOs who don't want wealth taxes. He lobbies for a billionaire financial magnate and Democratic mega donor James Simons, who obviously wouldn't like to have some of his probably ill-gotten gains taxed. This is why people don't trust the Democratic Party. This is why people don't know what to do. This is why we're hopeless. So when, just circling back to the first story on Russell Brand, this is why Max Blumenthal can make a lot of hay by saying, well, no one trusts the system. No one trusts, Google to make decisions that are in the best interests of its subscribers or its users. And it's all true. I believe all of that. I just don't think the Russell Brand case is a particularly good example. I think this is an extremely good example. When highly placed former Democrats members, former members of the Democratic administration, highly placed members, former very powerful U.S. Democratic senators are filing amicus briefs, which will have a lot of influence, a lot of power over this court, will be relied on, will be cited if the court comes down against the wealth tax. This is what people this is why Drain the Swamp has so much power. This is why people vote for Donald Trump. All right, folks, I am not going to get to, I have, and I will tomorrow, I promise you. We will talk tomorrow about why so many non-whites, and it really follows, it tracks what we just discussed. The disgust that people have for this corruption, this across-the-board co-option of our government. What should be the government of the people is the government of the multi-billionaire elites. All right, thanks so much for being part of Halitics. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. I appreciate your telling me, Flying Robot, that the audio was a little off. I believe I fixed that. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.